security, shelter, love, those things that make you human. Yeah, the self-actualizing elements are great, but if you don't have it, you should still be grateful and live your life. And I think that's really, really important, especially in the world of like Instagram. Everybody wants to floss, right? Everybody wants to show off, like, look at me, I'm better than you because I have a nice car. But that doesn't mean anything, right? There's a man I listened to, Dr. Wayne Dyer, and I think he mentioned something. It's like, what do you classify as winning? Because we're all going to die.
In the back of your mind, your dreams should be real, right?
Thanks all for tuning in to Dreamcatchers, where we make things happen. Dreamcatchers was formally launched to unlock the hidden potential in successful, self-motivated individuals who desire to take their life's work to the next level but need support to evolve. We are a collective group of professionals with various backgrounds that use our talents to assist those individuals in realizing their wildest dreams by providing education, inspiration, and direction. This podcast is where we share the lessons we've learned along the way to catching our dreams and give you some context around the how and the why to each approach to put you further ahead on the journey to catching your dream. Are you ready?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Dreamcatchers podcast. I'm your host, Jerome, and I've got the great fortune of having Ola Dantis with me today. Ola, are you in the DMV area, right?
I used to be, still love the DMV, but I just moved to Houston, Texas, about 2 months now, actually, ago. So that's been really interesting. Definitely we'll talk about that on the show as well. So I'm in Houston, H-Town, well, Katy, Texas, about 30 minutes from Houston. So yeah.
Close enough, right? And I was talking to a young lady here in Greensboro at one of our RIA meetings. She's like, I think I'm going to head down to Texas and see if I can connect with Ola. I was like, man, this guy's doing it on a high level. He got to pick up and move across the country to work with him. So with that said, if the listeners want to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so best way is invest with Ola. So investwithola.com. If you guys are, if your listeners are into Instagram, I'm pretty sure they are. Ola Dantis, check me out on Instagram. Reach out to me. I'm pretty much ubiquitous on the internet, and I'm the only Ola Dantis in the world. So if you just Google me, LinkedIn, Facebook, I'm everywhere. So wherever you are, I'm there. That's freaky.
You got a podcast too, right?
I do, the Dwelling Show. Yep. So if you're into real estate or just general mindset stuff, check out the show, the Dwelling Show. Feel free to plug into that as well. It's just free content. Currently, I'm not selling anything yet. So just for you guys to come and listen and learn about real estate for sure.
Perfect. So now do me a favor and tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you're working on.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ola Dantis. I like to throw this out there. I was born in Nigeria, lived in the UK, London, UK for a bit, about 10 years, and now live in the United States, with my wife and, she's not a little baby anymore. She's going to be almost 3, but then we have another baby on the way as well. So 2 girls, going to be 2 girls pretty soon, yeah. I missed everything that's going on in the world. We're still very grateful to God and thankful. Just for being here, for being alive during this time, regardless of the coronavirus or whatever. As we recording this, there's a lot going on. April 10th, there's a lot going on in the world, but we're just so thankful. In terms of what I do, so obviously we buy large apartment buildings with other investors and we share in the profits. So I basically started my journey from, a small duplex in Baltimore, Maryland, and then kind of scaled up into bigger apartments. So I'm sure we can talk about that a little bit, but that's essentially what we do. Name of our business is called Dwelling. So dwelling.com, DWELLYNN.com. That's the name of our company, and that's kind of what we use in terms of, buying our properties and obviously marketing the business as well.
Now, you got a story about flying across the ocean to go meet somebody to learn about this business. You got to open up the show with that story.
No, I have to. I think I'll go a little bit. There's a little bit of a backdrop. It's really funny because actually before this call, I just got off the phone with that person, and that's a very good friend of mine in London in the UK. And essentially, I like to start the story this way. My wife is Filipino, but she's also half African American. And our dad lives in Michigan, and she's always wanted to come to the United States. So even though I met my wife in the UK, she always wanted to come to America. So she did. She came for an internship in Orlando, Florida with Disney. And she was just like, hey, she called me up and said, hey, you should come to America as well. You're going to love it. I was like, okay. So I jumped on the plane, came to America, and then obviously landed in Orlando, Florida. Beautiful. If you live in Florida or Orlando and you don't know how beautiful it is, just go on a plane. Maybe not right now with everything going on. But I'm a window seat guy. So I was looking out the plane as I was landing in Florida, and the suburbia, America, just kind of how the streets are well, like symmetrical, and you see the landscaping and all the buildings just really in unison, just well structured. I was just marveled, in the plane, like this place is beautiful, right? And I touched down in Orlando, Florida, got to Disney, everybody was friendly. I was just like, this is paradise. Like, how come nobody told me about the United States, So I like to say that story because obviously there's a lot of people living in America who don't necessarily see America that way, right? That's a different conversation. But that's what I saw. And my wife was like, maybe we could move here. And I was like, I mean, I love this place, So, a few years later, we moved to America, and, we moved here, got my green card, got a job. My wife got a job. We had a luxury apartment that we were living in. We had great jobs. We could live the life, the American dream. We were doing fine. However, there was just something missing inside of me. I was like, wait, is this it? I just wake up, go to work, come back, do the same. Go to work, traffic, come back, do the same. I was like, there's gotta be something else to this. And kind of during that time when I was kind of looking for that thing, I wasn't quite sure what it was. Obviously, it was entrepreneurship. A friend of mine called me and said, hey, Ola, you've helped me in my business. Can you, meet me in Dubai and come and help me with my business? Well, I did what every smart man does, right? And I prayed about it, and then I asked my wife, like, hey, my friend said I should meet him in Dubai. My wife was like, well, why don't you guys Zoom and Skype? I mean, that would have made sense, especially now with the coronavirus. But then this was a few years ago. I was just like, no, what if I go to this business trip and learn something that could actually help our family? Which is exactly what happened, right? I went on that trip. I saw how well my friend was doing in his business, which was real estate investing in the UK. And I was like, oh my goodness, I could actually do this thing in America, right? So on my way back on the plane, I was like, I'm going to try to do this. Now, I didn't just tell you all that story because I wanted to be fluffy and long-winded. I wanted the listeners to know that, hey, it's okay to take risks on yourself, right? And when success comes to you, it would never come in a golden box with a red ribbon around it. It could come to you as a phone call, right? So pay attention. And if you're having that burning feeling inside of you, like there's gotta be much more to it, feed that, right? Don't just, there's some, I love listening to Les Brown, and he says some of us are just living in quiet desperation, waiting for this thing called life to be over. You don't have to live your life like that. You can feed that inner void. If there is one, feed that through entrepreneurship, trying different things, right? It's okay to fail. So for me, I was lucky. I, go back to the US, I divulged, into real estate, right? And I think 4 to 6 months later, we bought our first duplex in a Class A area in Baltimore. I like to say that because that makes a big difference. And, as I say, the rest was history. But before I finish this story, my wife and I was, at home on a faithful night doing what lovers do, right? Cooking. And, we bought this duplex and we had tenants upstairs. We lived downstairs. It was just me and my wife at the time. And I just told my wife, and this is a true story. Like, I wish I could share my accounts and stuff like that to tell you, like, I'm just an average Joe, right? And I just told my wife, like, my account, my Bank of America account, I was sent out on my app, just kept growing every month. And I was like, hold on a second, like, A few months ago, this account was just money in, money out, like money in, money out. Like it's so fast. Right? I could never catch money. It's just like, I was like, and now it's just kind of swelling, right? And I tell you again the story because when you start to take action in your life and things start to happen, if you don't step back and take stock, you might miss it, right? But I realized my account was swelling and I was like, wait, hold on a second. So I have more money because I bought this duplex. So if I buy 10 of this with what I have in my account right now, I might not need to work anymore. And that's exactly what we did. We went into, bigger apartments. I got a mentor because that's a very, very important piece to all of this conversation. Got a mentor, somebody that's done it before, one of the best in the industry. And then, started making my way into larger multifamily assets.
Wow. So, but what happened on that trip that made you make the shift? Because I don't think you actually pulled that out for us. You went and saw him, and then what?
Good point. So yeah, I mean, I got to Dubai, and then we spent, kind of 3 days, 2 to 3 days in a hotel room. Like I wasn't like, quad biking in the desert or anything like that. You do in Dubai, none of that. It was just, just a vanilla, straight, standard hotel. We're just kind of brainstorming, and I just realized, the power of real estate, just breaking down his business, right? And I also understood that real estate isn't a business where you always have to work in it. You can be able to work on the business, right? And that's a book called The E-Myth. If your listeners have never heard that book, you have to get that book, right? Michael Gilbert E-Myth. It talks about working on your business and not in your business. So on my way back, I was like, well, if my friend could do this, like I'm sure I can do this in America. America has a bigger population, bigger geographical landmass. And frankly, I had an hint of naivety, right? I didn't think of, the institutional racism that exists in America or, any of that stuff. I'm like, just this guy, I guess like new guy just came to this country. All I saw was gold, right? And honey on the streets, not, black men getting shot every day. I mean, let's just be honest, right? So I didn't see all that. I just saw, wow, I could, do well in this country. I just jumped right into it. And I think that's important to mention as well. And as I got back, as I started to do more research, I started to realize, wow, this is definitely that thing I've been trying to do. And this is what I've been trying to look for. And I just really went for it. But I think just really understanding that there was room for success during my trip was really that extra push for me to go full on into real estate. And just to really jump on that real quickly as well, I meet a lot of people that come to me and say, Ola, can you be my coach? Can you help me? I want to get into real estate. I want to do this. And I tell them, I'm like, guys, you have to be all in, right? You meet these people, they're like, I'm doing, the Amazon reseller program. I'm looking at Bitcoin. No, not going to work. Not going to work, right? You never hear like Beyonce saying she wants to become a country, musician, or Jay-Z wants to like, I don't know, be like a motivational speaker. Like you gotta focus on one thing and do that thing well. Mastery and discipline. So you gotta understand that. And that's what I do. That's what I'm doing now.
Wow. Wow. There's so much there. So did you still have your job when you were doing all this, or you walked out?
I still have my job. I love to say that because I mean I have a 6-figure job, so it's not something you sneeze at, right? You can't just say, hey, I'm just gonna, I have guests on my podcast who say bond the boats, all of that stuff, but I have a different philosophy, right? If you feel like you can still do both, but not like you're not getting crushed, but you can do both. I'm not the one to say, just quit your job, because having a job actually helps when you're investing in real estate, believe it or not. Sounds crazy, but it does. But it gets to a point of diminishing return where you don't have to. But I also love the fact that I can use that and say, yeah, I did it while having a full-time job. I love that. It's a nice punchline.
Perfect. So as you're, burning the oil at both ends, right? Midnight oil at both ends. At what point did you realize, hey, real estate is my way to go and I got to keep going? We call this the red pill moment.
Oh, really? Nice. I think for me, honestly, it's that faithful, day that I mentioned, right? I realized that, hey, this actually works, right? And, when we got the first rent from our tenants upstairs, I was like, wait, people are actually paying me money. I don't have to put a gun to their head. That's a horrible joke. But they actually pay me rent to live in my house. I was like, oh my goodness, wait, what? It was just an epiphany, right? A switch turned on. And I was like, hey, we can do this more. And I really want to talk about a mistake that I made, actually, before your next question. We did well with the duplex, and then I went to flip a couple of properties. Total mistake. Would never do that again. So in your journey, you're going to make mistakes, but it's always good for you to pivot and get back on track.
Got it. So, I mean, you keep coming back to one thing. And so when you walked out the door and started the apartment stuff full time, did you face any smaller challenges along the way?
There are always going to be challenges, right? There are always going to be challenges. So I think it's not being too focused on the challenges, is how can you get out of it, right? So I'm reading a book right now. For those who are on YouTube, it's called The Four Agreements. And, I love The Four Agreements. It's an awesome book. It's a quick read as well, as you can see, right? And it's really understanding that you're going to get challenges, but you have to be a principled person, right? And you have to have discipline. So for me, whenever those challenges crop up, I just know that this is just an opportunity for me to learn, right? I don't, my word is impeccable, right? I don't take things personal, right? I always do my best, right? So those are like principles that helps me every day. The things that I do in my life that helps me mitigate those challenges that crop up, right? It's a mix. I can go on and on the different challenges that I face, but I think it's more important to learn how to mitigate those things. So when I wake up in the morning, I have a routine, right? One of the things I do is meditation, right? Today I went for a 3-mile walk and run. I can't do the run, that's too much. But I kind of run and then I walk. So, those things help, right? Because I'm in my 30s, so I'm not like a young 21-year-old, so you gotta feed your body, right? This is an embodiment of God, right? So you gotta feed your body. So when you get when you get the bad news, when you get the challenges, you recognize it. It's crystal clear, and you're able to navigate and move, swiftly. So one thing is like, raising capital, right? Finding off-market deals, finding the good, the best partners that would help you, understanding debt, right? What's the best loan product for our deals? These are like nuances, right? And really, I tell folks, that's knowledge, right? That's knowledge. If you're trying to play in the multifamily space, it's 90% or maybe 80%, I'll be generous, 80% game, right? And 20% knowledge.
Pick your free copy up. Let's get back to the show.
I normally say 9 to 10. I'll give your audience a little bit this time. It's 80-20, right? So 80% is game, 90% is all that knowledge, right? It's like I've got a friend of mine that tells me, it's a really stupid thing to say, but he says like, professors in universities would teach you about business, right? Or how to be, a successful entrepreneur, but they are not successful, right? Which is a stupid thing to say, right? But that's kind of what I'm saying about it's 80% game, 20% knowledge. You can learn about cap rates and IRRs and NOI and GPI. I can bombard you with knowledge, right? But it's not about knowledge, it's about game. Especially people like us that look like us. I'm telling you, anybody that cares to listen, it's 80% game.
Wow. It's an interesting perspective. Did you have any fear as you were working through this stuff, man?
Man, that's a really good question. I think there are fears, but I think, I don't know if the word is fear. Well, yeah, let's go with fear. I think I wouldn't say I have the fear of failure, which is the most fear that everybody has. But what I would say is this: if if I don't hit my goal, I lost my mom last year, 2019. So when that happens to you in your 30s, something changes in your brain. If I don't achieve my goals that I've set out as a human being when I hit, God willing, 80 years old, or when I hit 40 years old in a few years, I will be just fine. I will be just fine. I think that's really important to tell yourself, because some of us put so much pressure on ourselves because we're constantly saying, hey, I've got to get 1,000 units before I'm blah, blah, blah age. And if you don't get to that goal when you're 40, then you could be depressed. Pay attention, right? You could be depressed. Or if you get that goal, you want more, right? So it's either or, right? Even if you hit your goal, you still want more. If you don't hit your goal, you feel depressed, or you could feel depressed. So it's really understanding that wherever I find myself in 5-10 years time, I should be grateful. I should be grateful that I have a family that loves me. I have kids that are healthy. My wife is healthy. I have a roof above my head. It's really that, basic, bottom of the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? Of do you have security, shelter, love, those things that make you human. Yeah, the self-actualizing elements are great, but if you don't have it, you should still be grateful and live your life. And I think that's really, really important, especially in the world of like Instagram. Everybody wants to floss, right? Everybody wants to show off, like, look at me, I'm better than you because I have a nice car. But that doesn't mean anything, right? There's a man I listen to, Dr. Wayne Dyer, and I think he mentioned something. It's like, what do you classify as winning? Because we're all going to die, right? So it's fascinating, and Gary Vee mentions that a ton as well, right? So it's just really understanding that, like, what do I care about? What am I after? And really making sure, in my opinion, that gratitude, it's kind of the central theme of your life. That's really key.
Got it. Everything comes from gratitude. And so, was there a point when you were going through your process where everything was on the line? Like, did you have a rock bottom moment?
I did. Yeah, definitely. I was going to say one. Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said, we're doing pretty well. We've got this duplex, so kind of going back. And then I kind of shifted from multifamily to single family, started flipping. And when I was flipping, I realized that, oh my goodness, like, this is just not what I was expecting at all. Right. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. You probably could tell from my just talking to me for the past 20 minutes or so. Yeah. So I would go to my project every day and I would want things to be done a certain way. And then my project timelines weren't being hit. And then it was affecting my budget. And I was having issues with my contractors, like we all do. Contractors. The first three, whatever, you got the gist. So I was having all that issues and I was like, I don't want to do this. This is not what I wanted. This is not how I see real estate, right? So, I did that, flipped a few properties and I was like, no way would I ever do this. Because if I did, I'll probably have a heart attack when I'm 40 or in my 40s. I could see that, right? And that's just my temperament. You got to know thyself. Other guys, I interviewed, hundreds of people on my podcast. They crush it flipping. They love it. But you got to know yourself. What do you like, right? What is your temperament? People say, I want to get started in real estate. I'm going to start flipping. And I chuckle. Well, not me, because I'm a nice guy. My brain chuckles, right? Like, like, you got to know what you like. And it's okay to experiment. But when you don't like something, pull yourself out of it and pivot to what you're comfortable with. And that's kind of like, for me, was during my project, I did a 23,000 square foot property in Baltimore. We were shut down for a whole month. The neighbor that I had was just racist. And I was like, why don't you like me? Oh, okay, I get it now. And he would call the cops on me. And that's a like true story. Like, there was one day I got to the property, we had like, police came and said, why are you on this property? Like, well, because I own this property. And, obviously I was lucky I didn't get shot and the police was very nice and they left. But, so those were times I was like, oh, wow, yeah, this is interesting. So, the mayor was called on us, all true story. But like I said in the beginning, if you remember, it's really understanding how you mitigate these risks, and how you mitigate these challenges by, who you are, your values of integrity, of gratitude, having a good morning of meditation and writing your goals down. So when the police comes at 12 o'clock p.m., you are ready, right? You're not arguing with the police like, hey, why are you on my property? And he shoots you. You're like, oh, welcome, sir. This is my house. You're in the right place. This is all 80% gain, right? This is all linked, right? And that's what success looks like. It's really understanding the dynamistic, field of businesses, and not just understanding the book theory, but understanding the straight side of it as well. Because you're going to need that.
Mindset, baby, mindset. Showing up and responding instead of reacting to the situations of the world. I think that's brilliant. I think every time when we're down in that bottom, something shows up and they present it as an opportunity, but it's really just a trick to pull us back into the old world. Did that happen to you?
Oh, man. I think a few times. I've got a few stories, and I just think, when those things happen, what I try to do is if I can journal that, I have a journal and just kind of say, hey, this happened on this day, and I write that down, and this is how I reacted, and if this happens again, this is what I would do. And I think that just kind of helps me to get a repository of kind of my life in a way, and that's kind of how I kind of look at things. Like, I don't want to make the same mistake twice, but if I did, it's okay. I don't want to make it a third time, so I don't judge myself. So yeah, in business, if you've been around long enough, we always have that. We're working on a $9 million deal right now, and that was one of them. Right? When you start talking about what to pay people and you start talking about money, people switch on you like in an instant. So you just have to, have the impeccability of words, right? You have to be able to communicate clearly. You have to be able to control the situation using your words, right? So these are like things that nobody talks about. Like, I don't think in business school or even in courses, right? People talk about, oh yeah, we're gonna teach you how to underwrite a deal, but you can underwrite deals to your highs fall off. Like, that's one piece of it, right? What about the chess piece? What about when a seller isn't looking to play ball? How do you manage that process so you can get to success?
I like it. I think, when people come to me and they're like, hey, I just need to know how to underwrite a deal and then I'm going to be on my way. Like, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into.
Mm-hmm.
It's good though that, I don't know that they're overconfident, but they feel like they have that young vigor. And it's interesting, you characterize yourself as maybe being a little naive in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but once you've seen the seasons a few times, you're like, oh yeah, we know what's about to happen before it happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I could have helped you, but you didn't want that support, so we just let you go do what you're doing. Now that you kind of outgrown your old life, Ola, what's the biggest difference in your approach?
Man, you ask the best questions. I think the difference for me is really understanding that it's not about me, and that is so hard, to even wrap your head around, right? And that's why I refer to my brain. I say me and not my brain. I've said that a couple of times, and really understanding that, like, hey, it's not about me trying to do this because I want to have a bunch of money or whatever. It's I'm doing this for a greater good, right? For great grandkids that maybe I can't even imagine what they'll look like, and for people after me and people that come in contact with me, right? I want you to touch me and feel love and feel calm and feel joy and feel exposed, right? So I think for me, it's how can I be a better version of myself every day? And how can I achieve that by helping the world, helping my world, people around in my circle, and really passing, this key piece of information, which is essentially real estate is wealth, right? That's one thing we're missing in our community. A lot of people don't get that. I'm really understanding that real estate can change, families from generation to generation, right? So when we go to like conferences or you listen to podcasts or whatever, and, guys like me, you say like wealth, where I can't speak for everybody else, I can speak for myself. When I say wealth, so if you're listening to this and you're 22 and you've watched way too many Grant Cardone videos on Instagram, wealth is not the Bentley. What? Yes, wealth is not the Ferrari and the blonde girl with the blue eyes. No, next to you in the Ferrari. That's not wealth. That's just a midlife crisis, okay? Wealth is not a safe full of cash, like the ones, what's the name of that boxer guy? He always owns cash and big chains and stuff like that. Floyd Mayweather. No, Floyd, love you, you're a great boxer. That's not wealth, that's just cash, okay? That's just cash, which Mike Tyson, you can have today and not have tomorrow, right? So that's not wealth. I'm trying to tell you what wealth is not, and I'll tell you what it is, right? So as you're going through your journey, yes, you want to floss, yeah, you want to get chicks, you want to get gold chain, yes, but that's not wealth, just so you know. Wealth is something that you can pass on from generation to generation and leave a long-lasting legacy. Look at Walmart, that's wealth. If you want to understand what wealth looks like in real life, the next time you go to Walmart, stop and look around, that's wealth, okay? So for us though, in real estate, wealth is buying real, no pun intended, estates that you can pass on, that is after you, not just for you. So that's why I made it kind of, my own passion to tell people that look like us, like, hey, that's what wealth is. So even if you buy a tiny little house in Pennsylvania, doesn't matter, for $200,000, you pay that thing off over 30 years. When we pass on, we all die, by the way. Yeah. You give that to your kids. That's wealth. That's wealth. I was watching the news the other day and it said, the coronavirus is affecting African Americans. And I was like, oh, I'm not surprised, right? Right? Like we get affected the most because we get affected the most regardless. So I think we should start having those kind of conversations and not to be afraid of it, right? And just say that's wealth. So if you're out there, you're thinking of how can I build wealth, not just for me, for your family, is to buy real estate and old real estate.
Awesome. So we're getting into the final phase of the conversation. The first question I want to ask is, what's the dream you're most focused on catching next?
Oh man, these are questions you can't even plan for. You should have sent me a whole script. What is the dream I'm looking to catch next? I think for me is really trying to figure out how I can be in a room full of people having this conversation I'm having with you, right? We're doing that right now, right? Because hopefully this is going to be heard by hundreds of people, I don't know, maybe thousands of people, but really, really passing this information to others and saying, you can do this and it doesn't require, all of this mental blocks that we have in our head. So that's, for me, it's the next dream I'm trying to catch. And I'm well aware that it takes an infrastructure to do that, right? To be on stage and talk to people and really inspire a generation and really change their thinking of, don't be so caught on, showing yourself as what you're not on social media. Don't be so concerned on consuming, data and content that might not be so good for your mind. Don't be so overwhelmed, with emotions, and really try to find a way to think straight, right? So for me, that's the dream I'm trying to catch next, and it means so much for me. Hopefully, I can catch it. I'll let you know.
Oh, there's no hope in it. You're an achiever. It's going to happen, my brother. What gift are you giving the world?
Oh man, that is so good. I think right now the main thing is really just helping. So you mentioned at the beginning of your call, so I'm so glad because this was not planned. I think you invited me a few months or weeks ago, I can't remember, And then now you're telling me you met a lady that said, hey, I'm moving to Houston because I want to go, work with Ola. I want Ola to mentor me. And that's almost as random as it gets. You're in North Carolina. I was in Baltimore. Now I'm in Houston, and you met some, Michaela, obviously, I know her very well, So it's just really helping people, right? Really helping folks, making sure that it's not about me. It's about how can I give back the little that I have, how can I help others? But from a more kind of concrete perspective, what we're trying to do here at Dwelling is something called the One House Pledge and the K Pledge. Obviously, right now, everything is just shut down because of coronavirus or whatever. But the One House Pledge is we're trying to figure out a way to donate a house to a family in need in parts of the country that we do business. So obviously right now in Houston, how can we give a house mortgage-free to a family? Yet it's not going to be a $1 million mansion, obviously. It's going to be a reasonable priced house that we can build and just donate that to a family, right? And then the next thing we're trying to work on is something called the K Pledge, where we fly, either somewhere in the United States and we help local people there. It could be maybe helping, giving out food or whatever in a food bank, kind of coalesce with a food bank or whatever, or traveling somewhere outside of the country and just really helping share, kind of the message of love and peace, and just through food and, maybe helping kids over there learning how to code. I mean, this is all kind of, mission match in my head, and we're talking about it in our company. So that's kind of how we're looking to give.
Awesome. And so the final question is, what's one thing you want people to take away from this conversation?
That's such a good question. Oh my goodness. Honestly, this is, what is the one thing that you want people to take away from this conversation? I think it's just understanding that there's so much more than the eyes can see. As we record this, it's a lot about 5G, coronavirus, conspiracy theories, and stuff like that. So just understand that whatever it is, even if you're not a real estate person, you like stocks or you like bonds or whatever you like doing, doesn't matter. Just understand that whatever it is you're doing, there's more to what the eyes can see. A friend of mine would say there's a spiritual aspect to everything. I'm not going church on you, but it's just understand that there's so much more to see. Remember what I said, 80% game, 20% knowledge. And the game is the most important part.
Awesome. I did African ancestry, and we traced my heritage, and it went to Nigeria, to the Yoruba tribe.
Wow, you're a brother. We should give you a Yoruba name then. We need to give you a Yoruba name.
Cool, man. But again, I appreciate you making time, and I know you're super busy and engaged, man. So thank you for sharing with the listeners, and looking forward to meeting you soon.
Thank you so much. Hopefully we're going to plan something in North Carolina. I appreciate you. Thank you for everything you're doing as well during Catches.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for joining the tribe today. We would love to hear from you. Please don't forget to rate, like, and share. Perhaps someone you know could benefit from what we've discussed. Until the next time, remember that your dreams should be real.